My name is Christian McBride. I was born and raised in Philadelphia. I'm the son of a bassist. I am the great nephew of a bassist. So, seems that bass was in my future no matter what I did. I fell in love with jazz around age 11. I started playing the electric bass when I was 9, and my mother saw that I was really getting serious about this, so she decided that she would send me to a school that had a good music program. And the middle school that I went to, obviously to play in the orchestra, I couldn't play the electric bass guitar, so it was suggested that I play the acoustic bass. And at first, I wasn't a huge fan of the upright bass, but after a while, it started to grow on me, to the point where I fell in love with it. I think jazz is a culmination, one of the greatest examples of a combination of the spiritual and the intellectual. This music is a great American legacy. You go anywhere on this planet, you go to Europe, you go to Asia, you go to South America, you ask them what jazz is, you ask them what America's greatest contribution to the world is, 90% of them would say jazz. I think American culture kind of gets hung up on whatever makes the most money is the best. But I think there's a certain artistic greatness that jazz always had, balancing the spiritual and the intellectual. I was only a Juilliard for 1 year, but in that 1 year, the discipline, which I really had none of, but studying with great bass legends, someone like a Homer Minch, studying with a composer like Eric Ewazen, learning history from someone like Joel Sachs, those stick with you for your entire life. I feel safe in saying that pretty much every other bass player at the school was better than me, and so I would listen to them, and I would be like, okay, I got to get to that. You know what I mean? And to be around that every day was quite inspiring. But at the same time, when somebody like Bobby Watson calls you and says, hey, I got some gigs for you, and the members of the band are people I had been listening to on records like the night before, man, that was a dream come true. Do more listening than talking. When I first started going on the road with people like Bobby Watson and James Williams, and particularly a legend like Freddie Hubbard, I learned so much by just shutting up and observing. When you're around people with a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom, they'll give you a lot of that without asking for it. You know what I mean? So while there's nothing wrong with asking questions, observing and listening can be extremely powerful. Well, most people would say Miles Davis is kind of blue. I mean, that is sort of like the consensus is that that's the greatest modern jazz album ever. But I actually might not pick kind of blue. I might pick Miles's album Milestones. Part of me wants to pick an Ellington record, just because Duke Ellington, again, he's such a colossal figure in the history of jazz. Maybe Jazz Party or Duke Ellington live at Newport. Hello, Newport Jazz Festival, what's up? Part of me also wants to say Miles Davis's Bitches Brew, but again, that's too easy of a pick. Maybe I'll go with Weather Report's Heavy Weather. Vodka. I'm sorry. I have a tendency to get in my own way when I'm trying to write music. I start thinking too hard, This sucks. No one's gonna like this. This sounds too much like the last song I just wrote. This sounds too much like someone else's song that I like, So like if I have a due date for a piece, like next month. If I start writing now, that's too much time for me to start questioning myself. 4 days before the deadline, I can't believe I'm admitting this, but 4 days before, all the ideas are like, oh, okay, you don't have time to worry about that now, just write. And it usually comes out like gangbusters. I've had this recurring dream of composing a very popular television theme song. There was sort of a golden era in American television, starting in like the late 50s, throughout the 60s, maybe until the mid 70s, or maybe early 80s, where like the majority of American television shows had great theme songs. You know, I've actually incorporated some of them into my own set. I did a record called The Philadelphia Experiment, sort of a co-op with the great Uri Kane on keys and Questlove. And on one of my bass solos, I'm pretty sure it's on the record, I know it's on one of the outtakes, I started playing the melody to the Jeffersons in my bass solo. And at some point, I could see Questlove like, why does that sound familiar? Right? So once he finally figured out what it was, he just starts dying laughing right in the middle of the track. If I had a chance to write for a television theme song or a TV show, I would bring melody back. Because like now it's all like grooves and loops. You know, we need a melody with some chords.